Welcome to Taste Buds. I'm Debra Eckerling, goal strategist, writer, and foodie. And today I'm speaking with Bruce Weinstein, author of Cold Canning. And you've done 38 cookbooks, and this is your 40th book. You must just love what you do.
I do. I feel very lucky to be in this business and to make a living writing about food and creating new recipes, which is absolutely my passion.
Oh, that's awesome. We will get into the joys of cold canning, but first I have to know, how did you manage to make your love of food a career?
It was a roundabout way. Went to chef school after high school, but decided I was never going to work in a restaurant. It just wasn't for me, and didn't know what else to do. And then I went to art school and got a degree in fine arts and went into advertising and worked my way up to be creative director and did that for 20 years. And had a friend who was doing recipe testing and writing a cookbook. And I said, "Oh, I want to be doing that. I want to do what you do." And I took a lot of time off of my advertising job and started working in a test kitchen with her, doing this hourly kitchen work. Um, Went out to lunch one day, ran into her editor, who was doing her book. And this woman said to me, "Do you want to write a book?" Now, this was the early 90s, and it was very easy to fall bass backwards into it that way. And so that was my first book. And then by the time I got my second book, then I was able to get an agent. And then I left advertising. And then I met my husband, who was also a writer, and he helped with that. And we started writing the books together. And so together we've published 37 books. I did that one book before him. And then I've also published two knitting books along the way. So it's kind of fell into it and love it, and I feel very lucky.
That's awesome. Okay, tell me about the knitting books.
Oh, I always wanted to learn to knit, and in my early 40s, I had a friend teach me and jumped right into it, started taking over men's knitting groups at this yarn shop in Manhattan where we lived. And we had a meeting one day with our food editor at Stewart, DeBory and Chang, and we were both, Mark and I, were wearing sweaters that I had made and designed. And so she said, "Oh, did you make those?" I said, "Yep, and design them." So she set up a meeting with the crafts editor for me, had a meeting the next week, and walked out with my first knitting book called Knits Men Want: The 10 Rules for Women That They Need to Know Before They Knit for Men, plus the only 10 patterns you ever need. It was very tongue in cheek, I got slammed for it in the press. A lot of people thought it was very sexist and very 50s, but I thought it was funny and tongue in cheek, and things like, women wear socks with pom poms on them, and in general, men don't. Well, I kind of got slammed for comments like that because I guess there are men who wear socks with pom poms, and we shouldn't rule out making them for the men we love.
Would your husband ever wear a sweater with
No,
pom-poms?
no, he wouldn't. So there you go.
Well, I guess that, score one for perspective, right?
I won't wear socks with pom poms. Not that there's anything wrong with pom poms.
My perspectives, because we've already digressed, so we might as well keep going. So I read two books on goal setting, and I help people with book proposals. That's one of my skill sets. And what I'm hearing is that's a unique slant, which is, in book publishing today, unless, of course, you've written 30 some odd books, you need to figure out why the idea is unique and why you need to write it. So I love that you followed your passion
Mm.
and have gotten into your second career, like a real life
Yeah, yep,
career.
absolutely.
You've gotten to do all the things that you love. So that's just amazing.
I have gotten to do all the things, and I have to tell you, Deb, doesn't matter if you've written 2 books or 37, every idea still has to be unique. It has to be something people want. You can't just get to write another book because you've done so many. Our publisher we're with now, Little Brown, this is Cold Canning is our 8th book with this publisher and with this editor. And he always likes to say to us when we present ideas that don't give me the answer to a question nobody has asked,
Yes.
because every book idea has to be something that's already going on in people's minds. And they have to already be thinking about, oh, I want to know how to do that. Your book idea should not put the question in their head. It should answer a question they already have, but maybe they didn't know. But as soon as they hear it, like, oh, yes, of course, I need that.
I really love that. You're right. It's not enough to love what you do.
Mhm.
You need to find the people who love what you do.
Yeah. And I could tell you that cold canning is the perfect example of that, finding a book that is a unique twist on something that may already exist, but that people do want to know how to do it. There, when we talked about doing a canning book with this publisher, Mark and I had to sit down and think, well, how can we make a canning book that's ours, that is something that is truly Bruce and Mark? And how can we compete against the Ball canning book and these big brand names that have been out there forever? And how can another canning book stand out? And so we realized there were a number of things that we like to do when we can, and make jams and jellies and chili crisps and conserves and salsa matchas and infused vinegars. Basically, anything you could pack into a jar is in this book. So, what do? We like to make small batch to start with. One of the things that I don't like about traditional canning is that every time you go to make peach jam or strawberry jam, recipes in those Ball books tell you, to wash your 12 jars and to get your case of fruit. I don't want to make 12 jars of jam. I want to make 2 jars of jam. Um, I don't want enough food in the pantry to survive the apocalypse. I just want something to get through guests for next weekend and maybe have something to bring a house gift to somebody. So that was the first thing that was going to be different about this book. Then we said, okay, if we're only making 2 jams, what else can we do to make it easier? Because I also don't like boiling all those bottles, both before you fill them and after you fill them. Why do I not like boiling them before? Because it's a pain in the neck and it makes everything hot. Why don't I like boiling it after? Because it's a pain in the neck, it makes everything hot, and you're then doing a second cook, right? You've cooked your jam or your jelly or your chutney or your relish. Then you put it in a jar. Then you put it in a hot water canner or a steam canner, and it processes to become shelf stable for 10 minutes. And that's a cook time. So that's another 10 minutes of cooking. So you lose the freshness, you lose the brightness of the fruit. You lose that summeriness that I like in jams when you don't do that. So how do you not do that? You make a small batch and you keep it in your refrigerator or your freezer, hence cold canning. There's no need to process everything. You don't have to make it shelf stable, and it's fresh and it's delicious. And there are lots of other benefits we could talk about doing this small batch too.
First of all, gold stars and snaps for bringing us back into the topic. So thank you. I so appreciate that. The other thing, and I mentioned before we started recording, is my mother was a huge mason jar fanatic because she loved to be organized. So, right, some of the different pastas and panko and whatever else. And I, of course, inherited all the jars, many of which I still use. But believe me, I have plenty that just want to be used for canning. So I was excited when I saw this because I'm the person who's thinking, oh, this is interesting. How do I do it in a way that makes sense for me, which is what your book is?
Yeah, thank you. It makes sense for a lot of reasons. One of the things when you're doing small batch and you're not making it shelf stable is you can reduce the amount of sugar you use. Sugar is a preservative. I mean, it's an age-old preservative. And so there's a reason why when you buy a jar of Smucker's jam or Stonewall Kitchen jam, they taste sweet. They taste like the first thing you taste is sugar. At least I do. Before I taste the blueberries or the raspberries, what I taste is the sweet. And that's because they need a lot of sugar to make it shelf stable. But one of the things that I love about doing this small batch and no processing is that I can use less sugar because I'm not trying to make it shelf stable. And when I do need to use pectin, which is not in every recipe, some recipes call for pectin, some recipes don't call for pectin. There is something out there called low sugar or less sugar required pectin. So it still helps the jams and the jellies set up and they become thick, but you don't need to have 8 cups of sugar to 7 cups of berries. You can get away with 3 cups of sugar, to 5 cups of berries. And that's a huge difference in taste and in health.
Right. I often hear that if you want to be healthy, the first thing to do is drink a lot of water. And the second thing to do is take as much sugar out of your diet as humanly possible.
Yep. Now, do I think that we should all take all the sugar out of our diet? No, because then life would not be enjoyable at all.
Right.
It would not be enjoyable. But everything in moderation. And no, I should not be eating a pint of ice cream every day. And I shouldn't eat cake every day. And I don't want to sit down to an entire jar of jam, but I do want a nice thick spread of jam on my toast. I am not one of these people who puts the thinnest, tiniest little layer of jam and jelly. In fact, on our TikTok channel, Cooking with Bruce and Mark, we posted a video this summer of Mark showing people how to properly make toast. And it was basically his whole VO, the voiceover is, it's come to my attention that you people don't know how to make toast. And because we've watched people make toast, they spread the tiniest half a teaspoon of jelly on a piece of bread. No, you put a big dollop and you spread it and you get the flavor that enjoy it. But don't do that every hour on the hour.
Can you do it every day?
Sure. You can have a piece of toasted jam every day. Yeah. There's a lot less sugar in that toast and jam than there is in a slice of cheesecake.
Oh, that's true.
So
If
you can say, look how good I'm being. I'm not eating cheesecake.
I'm not eating cheesecake. I had a guest a few weeks ago. We were talking about eating in moderation. And she said, isn't one cookie better than no cookies?
You know, I'm going to reference back to one of the other book I wrote called Real Food Has Curves, which was a book about getting processed food out of your life. And using real ingredients is so important for satiety, for feeling full, feeling satisfied when you eat. All fat. Let's talk about fats for a second. All fat, butter, olive oil, lard, chicken fat, canola oil, all of it has 120 calories per tablespoon. So if it all has the same calories, why would you spread anything on your toast that doesn't have a lot of flavor? Now that should be butter. It could be chicken fat. It could be super flavorful olive oil. It could be toasted nut oils, but don't cook with and don't eat flavorless oils unless the recipe specifically needs it. You don't want to put something super flavorful in terms of fat at the bottom of a delicate soup because it might, mask the flavor, but you still need some fat. So there are times when, a more mild fat or oil is necessary, but in general, eat the real stuff. It'll make you feel better in your mind. It'll make you feel better in your stomach, and you'll be a better person.
You will because you'll be happy.
You'll be easier to be around. Mm-hmm.
Is there something else that you feel very strongly people need to know about cooking or eating?
Not to be afraid of it. First of all, I sort of understand being afraid of cooking, but not. I mean, it's just something that I've never been afraid of. But just do it. What's the worst thing that happens? It doesn't come out? Well, then you can go out to dinner. But try and make food. And don't be afraid of food. I do not understand it. A friend's daughter started college last year, and when she came home at the holidays, we were talking about her experiences, and her roommate, she said, had a really strange thing that she never run into. And I said, what is it? She's afraid of fruit. Now, I had never heard of that in my life. So that has become my touchstone now, like, don't be afraid of fruit. Don't, don't be afraid. It's just a plum. It's just cauliflower. It's just a mushroom. Okay, it's just a chicken leg. Don't be afraid of food.
I feel like this is a great transition to ask you about what is a good starter recipe for canning. Is there one that you love?
The recipe that I continue to make when we do demonstrations from this book is my Blackberry Conserve. And conserves are kind of like jams. It's cooked fruit, usually berries, but not necessarily. They are not made with pectin, so it's a lot easier to make up front if you're afraid of dealing with pectin. There's always a nut involved. There's always some kind of aromatic spice. And I like the blackberry conserve in my book because it's blackberries, and because there's no pectin, you do cook it a little longer. Now, I said earlier what I like about the low sugar pectin and the no double cooking was that you get a brighter, fresher flavor. Okay, you're not double cooking this, but it is cooking longer. But what you gain from cooking the blackberries longer without pectin is a caramelized flavor. You go even beyond cooked into slightly caramelized, which is nice. The earthy notes from the nuts. You have bright pops of candied ginger in there and a little nutmeg. So this is a conserve that you can spread on bread if you're making, say, a turkey club. Try it instead of mayonnaise or mix them with a little mayonnaise. You can eat it with roast beef. Imagine, like you might think of a cranberry relish at Thanksgiving, but this is blackberries and it's caramelized and it has nuts and the texture and crunch of nuts and the slight bite of ginger. And you could do it in under 20 minutes, and it's a one pot thing. You dump everything in and you just stir. And it's only going to make 2 jars. So you can serve some for a dinner party and save a jar to bring as a house gift to the next dinner party you go to. To me, that's the point of cooking, is sharing.
Exactly. For these jams, can you freeze them?
It's all good for your fridge or your freezer. And in your freezer, it will last almost indefinitely with one caveat, and that is USDA. We have to always talk about what the USDA recommends. And that is, if you have a self-defrosting freezer, which most of us do, you're talking nothing should be in there more than 6 months. That's chicken breasts, it's ground beef, because every night it gets a little warmer, so the frost goes away and then gets a little colder again. However, if you've got a chest freezer or a standalone freezer that's not frost-free, you could leave it in there almost indefinitely and it'll stay fresh. Take it out the night before you want it. It'll thaw. It'll be perfect. The only thing in the book that you really can't freeze and get right because of the texture are going to be the pickles. The cucumbers don't freeze well and then come out with a crunch. I wouldn't freeze my kimchi, which is a kind of pickle, and I wouldn't freeze my sauerkraut, which is yet another kind of pickle. So when it comes to the fermented and the pickled stuff, refrigerator only. Everything else, fridge or freezer.
I think it's great that you could freeze something indefinitely, but why would you want to? I mean,
Well,
it's so good. Isn't it like, do you sometimes have those, ooh, I need to eat the thing, that you like get out of bed and take it out of the freezer because you know you want it the next day?
always. It's always, oh, I need to eat the thing. And it does, you could fill in the blank for what that thing is. That thing could be my strawberry jam. That thing could be a prime rib. It's something in the freezer I need to get out because I need to have it tomorrow. Yeah.
Love that. Okay, and I meant to ask you before, what was the first cookbook?
The first cookbook that I wrote, this is before I met Mark, that one that happened on that lunch walk, was called Frozen Drinks With or Without the Buzz. And it was published in 1997 and pre-internet, pre-digital. The Barnes and Noble up by Lincoln Center in New York and also down on in Washington Square had this giant 12-foot poster of the book in the front window. I got to go on QVC. I got to go on TV shows with that book. So that was a whole lot of fun. That book probably sold more copies than any other book. And of course, it was my first, so I didn't have an agent yet and I didn't own the copyrights. So, that's just what happens. But that book got me an agent, and that agent got me another book, which was our Ultimate Ice Cream book. That book got me on QVC. It was very nice. The week the book comes out, you go on and in 5 minutes, you sell 17,000 copies. So you get to go back and sell another 20,000 and 30,000 and 40,000 copies. And that just started me on this new career. And it was again, I fell into it. I'm very good at what I do. And I believe the books are really fabulous, but I was also very lucky.
Publishing these days, it doesn't work the same.
Publishing has changed. And, first, Mark and I survived the digital divide, which I know a lot of our colleagues who were writing books before the internet didn't survive that divide. And we did, partly by leaning into that space. We ended up becoming weekly columnists on WeightWatchers.com and writing for all these online magazines when nobody wanted to because, oh, that's online. Nobody's going to care about that. Well, people were going to care about that. So we jumped into that full force, and we survived that. But it's hard, because even as I said earlier, to this day, 37 books in, every idea has to still be a reason to exist. It can't just be because we've done so many already. And you have to come up with those ideas every time.
And then how lucky are you that you have a partner who's so in this, right?
Mhm. I am.
Or or
Yeah.
or was that did you have the shared love and that's what brought you together, or it's just something
It was just luck. I mean, we both loved food and we both loved to cook, but I'm the trained chef and Mark is a writer and he's written Mark's also published his memoirs 2 years ago, which has nothing to do with food. It's about his relationship with literature because this is his second career. He was a college English professor. And so in our team, he's the writer and I'm the chef. So we get to do each separate parts of it. And together, we definitely produce more than two people should be able to do.
well, I think it's amazing and you're very lucky, so good on both of you.
Thank you.
What from your Jewish upbringing do you think led to your love of food and this deep dive? Because come on, we love food.
We do, but I had a very unusual Jewish upbringing in that both of my grandmothers were terrible cooks, and my mother was a terrible cook. And she is actually downstairs. She's staying with us right now. So she may be hearing this, but she knows she was a terrible cook. Now she's a good cook. So by the time I was 10, I wanted to start cooking because there were no other choices. I mean, the thing was, if you don't like what I made, there's the kitchen. Go help yourself. I mean, I'm not going to make you anything new. So I did. And then I started cooking for the family. And so by the time I was in high school, I knew I wanted to go to chef school, that I wanted a life in food, but took the roundabout way to get there. And my grandmothers, one of them worked her whole life, since the 1930s. She was a dressmaker. And so she didn't have time to stay home and cook. And when she did, yeah, she could make very good chopped liver and she made really good chicken soup. But that was about the end of it. The other one also made really good chicken soup, not as good chopped liver. What she made, what she made that was extraordinary was stuffed breast of veal. And to this day, breast of veal is one of my favorite things. I have long since improved on how she did it, but that was an introduction to that was beyond belief. And it's breast of veal to this day. I can't eat it and not be back in my grandmother's kitchen. And my father's mother with the breast of veal, she did not ever want to give me her recipes because she always felt that I improved them. And she didn't like that. She's like, I'm not giving it to you because you're going to make a change and you're going to try and make it better. I'm like, yeah, what can I say? Yeah, someone's got to. But I still, to this day, I make her apple cake almost the way she made it. In fact, I made one yesterday because I had some apples in the fridge. And it's another thing, takes me right back to her kid. It was always apple cake in that kitchen.
And so your ultimate favorite Jewish foods then are?
Hmm. Oh, well, brisket, but the way I've now learned to make it, not the way my grandmother made it, but a good brisket is beyond belief. Um, Chopped liver, you got to have chopped liver. And I will tie it back to cold canning to tell you that every time I make chopped liver and we serve it, Mark insists I make Blackberry Conserve to serve along with the chopped liver. Because you put a little chopped liver on your cracker and then you put a little Blackberry Conserve on the chopped liver. And it's that French influence of the sweet with the liver flavor, and it's amazing.
I love the idea of when you add fruit to things,
Mhm.
especially to a protein, because it makes it better.
It does. Yeah.
And why wouldn't we only want to eat things that are delicious or, as we said, make you happy because then the rest of your life is better.
And then you're easy to get along with, and people will like you.
Food is the answer to everything. I am
Agree.
really glad we solved all the world's problems. Do you have any final food for thought for us?
Oh, again, I say, don't be afraid of cooking. Don't be afraid of it. Just do it. Cook for people too. That's, you know, when I'm alone, I tend not to cook for myself very much. It's all about cooking for people. So luckily, I'm not alone very often. But when I find myself alone, I call up friends to come over because I do want to cook, but I won't do it for myself. So I have to do it for other people. So next time I'm alone, I'll give you a call. Come over and I'll make you stuffed breast of veal.
I will jump on a plane. Just give me a little
Okay.
notice. Thank you again, Bruce Weinstein, for joining me in all the talk of food and, of course, your new book called Canning. Bruce, where can people learn more about you?
The website is bruceandmark.com. And our podcast is Cooking with Bruce and Mark. Our TikTok channel is Cooking with Bruce and Mark. Our Facebook page is Cooking with Bruce and Mark. So everything Cooking with Bruce and Mark, you will find us.
Oh, gotta love the branding. Thank you again so much for
Thanks, Deb.
Thank you for tuning into Taste Buds with Deb. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, and or your favorite podcast platform. And if you go to jewishjournal.com/podcast, you can get the recipes and read the articles that go with each episode. And you can learn more at tastebudswithdeb.com. Until next time, make some good food. It'll make you happy. And while you're at it, make some good food for somebody else. And bon appetit.